Right from the start, real estate is all about how to attract buyers.
Car as the next most valuable consumer good, which anybody and everybody goes on to buy it. Similar to home. You see, Hyundai and Maruti compete each other, but they don't really compete in terms of their core values. You go to Google and could pick up any brochures and probably rename it and call it your project tomorrow. In real estate, costliest money spent for design, for structure, there is a civil, there is regulation, similar to any of other things. Architect today at least play a very major role in bringing the cost optimization and making sure that becomes very predictable for a developer.
Welcome to episode 14 of Reality.Club podcast. Joining me is Badri from Chicago, an investor and product leader, and Arun CR, the founder of Reality Club and Reality.io. We have been discussing about the sales and marketing process and how that has a lasting impact on several other aspects and departments within a developer's office, and how every other stakeholders that support the economy of this industry plays around and so on. We sort of ended our previous episode with a note that the boring businesses thrive big time. I'm quoting Badri straightforward. It's the boring businesses that has a strong system and process that does the cyclic thing to perfection to the T is something that thrives. And we have always seen real estate as one industry to be known as a disintegrated industry altogether. But to be very frank, quite a lot of players have been there and done that to ensure there are some solid systems and processes. Meaning they don't just thrive, they even scale leaps and bounds just by following that certain discipline. And today's episode is going to dive deeper into how this discipline is instilled and imbibed. This industry, unlike tech, where Badri and I predominantly talk about, is that we talk about product, we talk about innovation, we talk about R&D first, and then the sales and marketing. But right from the start, real estate is all about how to attract buyers. Right from the day the land is acquired, that's how the things have been panning out. And for some reason, people get into silos, people get into some sort of deviations, and most businesses, they have enough distractions to move forward. And such distractions, the companies that control such distractions, let's talk about the boring part of the entire scheme of things. But I'm sure this boring part will be made interesting by Arun. So to begin with, Arun, let's talk about how, let's minus how the sales and marketing stream of things work. Now to ensure how you imbibe the necessity of ensuring that this product should sell at cost X, well ahead of the market cost at this point of time. What is the sort of psychology that the entire players, let it be an architect, let it be a civil engineer, let it be a contractor, let it be, somebody who supplies some materials to the developer over there, how they get to the belief system. It's not just about money, it's about business, right? They get some products today. Will I get the same thing tomorrow? The inventory should be active. That's the kind of psychology that leading inventory services and the
predictability, essentially predictability of input, input process and output. Yeah.
So I'd like to begin with the psychology that gets imbibed as a new project begins, not with the CEO, not with the sales and marketing side of things. How the belief is built within every other players.
What belief you mean? Just in
That
case.
This area, which is obscure at this point of time, has got a value X, and this is going to be the next big thing.
That's very gray sort of place because it depends on the founder, right? As to what he would like to see that property as. Is he seeing in today's value or the combination with which what he is putting in as materials to build a community, cluster community, and then what is the value he is seeing, perceiving it to be sold at, right? But unfortunately, most 99% of them, they merely go by the market, which means, hey, just because next door or next 3-5 kilometer so-called competitions are selling at this rates, so I will be able to sell it at that rate per square feet, right? That is one perspective. Or there is another perspective that if there is no comparison in terms of new cluster, I am the first person to actually, come in. They again go for the simple value proposition. Okay, hey, the land is X, and I would want to make X margin, and then my buyer probably have to look at this location. So probably how cheap or how most valuable can I make it, right? This is how it all starts. So basically, if you see I mean, this is something very unfortunate, very unidimensional in terms of brief for most of the places. See, let's take an example of car vis-a-vis a home, right? Why am I speaking about car? Is like car is I've always taken car as the next most valuable consumer good, which anybody and everybody goes on to buy it, right? They car is also pretty much into time. It's just not a simple, asset. It is a lifestyle driven, right? Similar to home. It's unlike your gold, right? Gold is not something. It's where you create certain different sets of lifestyle. It's simple, like you go. So that's why I always compare car and home, right? So when you take car or automotive industry as such, right? Car manufacturing as such, just imagine how much of time goes into, or the volume, what is the value of a designer of a car itself, right? How the manufacturing timeline before even the model goes into a manufacturing lane, right? What all it goes through, right? Uh, so while it is going through, right, how much was taken into consideration? There will be a management who says that, hey, I'm looking at where do we start operating this car at? Okay, this is the competition. Most of them are cluttered here, and I have to position a car in that segment because that segment has more TAM, right? TAM is the say large people who are there to access, who could buy. Affordability is large. So if it is there, then I am positioning at that place. While I'm positioning, what combination or what USP differences I have to present myself with. Since these are not something which they determine for every car, right? As I said, Maruti as a company, Hyundai as a company, Volkswagen or Skoda combined as a company, Renault, Nissan as a company, right? Tata as a company. If you see these parameters, we will be able to easily tell them across their product line, right? There will be some sort of a USP driven aspect.
Usually say the Corolla equivalent or the Honda Accord equivalent. So typically you will know like it is to such a point that one particular model in a popular brand will have equivalents across across the other brands, right? Because essentially demand has been established for that category of user, but at the same time you want to have minor differentiation within that so that your car is bought instead of that. So there is a combination of commonality versus differentiation. Commonality is till the point that they relate and buy. Differentiation is why buy from me. So right.
More to just give a fact there, right? See, all of them could be priced at 7 lakh rupees, 7 to 8 lakh rupees. So across all of these brands, there will be cars which are sold between 7 and 8. But there will be differentiation of why, I mean, certain amount of customer who is ready to spend 8 lakhs will go on to buy Maruti instead of Hyundai, and the same set of people could go on to buy Hyundai instead of Maruti, and same set of people would go on to, I mean, same set of people who has the affordability would go on to buy some Tata maybe, right? So, but why are these? These are three different profiling, right? Those sort of sub-profiling or perceptual profiling in terms of lifestyle matches, right? There, if you see, all cars have four wheels, steering, AC, XYZ, and all those things. So that becomes bare minimum, right? For 7, 8 lakhs, 10 lakhs, right? So that is not a differentiator. The positioning comes only in terms of how that buyer identifies himself with the car, right? How is that car becomes part of a family, thereby that family as such or that individual as such become something else by owning it. So that is clear perception and positioning, right? So this is what we call in terms of that piece, if you see, lags heavily in real estate industry.
Okay, so you mean to say the awareness has to be built for the specific teams that get to bring the project live. In drawing analogies from a car manufacturer, you spoke about making people understand the TAM, meaning the need that the market is showing up, or the market's availability to adopt to a certain product, and ensure the R&D and several other teams come aligned together. So this is very much possible, and this is very much evident in the automotive ecosystem, and this lacks in real estate ecosystem is what you're trying to say. And I'd like to hear further from you on this.
Again, I want to just give it very elementarily here, right? So, which means just take the same case in terms of real estate. People tend to give a home for 30 lakhs or 50 lakhs or 70 lakhs, right? But don't really go on to sub position it, right? Just similar to car, which is between 7 lakhs to 10 lakhs, everybody gives a car, right? But not all cars have just mere four wheels and with a bracket, right? Just not that is there, right? There is much more is added to it, right? Similar ways, but in terms of home, what you see is like brick and mortar, same specification, vitrified tiles, Jaguar equivalent specifications, 9-story building in the same location with the same setback. Probably the color of the home, I mean, the elevation is different, right? Everybody has everybody is. So that is where people are unable to see a lifestyle, right?
I can clearly see where you're coming from, because here we look for a lot of that in the US, especially even within the townhomes, which is a little bit more commodity than single family home, which is the row houses. We go into things like, I mean, we do this whether we look at primary or secondary, but we go into things like how big the kids rooms are, can it support the two kids, and then whether there is a small space for office, and is that as part of is the master bedroom huge that you can put a working table there, or is there like a small working area, small tweaks, very fine tweaks, which, I mean, like, I don't know if they target it at us, but at least you have choice as a buyer that, okay, my family setup this works better, or my family setup this house is limiting. But I guess it's a bigger challenge to do that in a 2-3 bedroom apartment, because there's only so much you have to work with.
See, you are coming from the buyer perspective, right? My point is, just imagine when you go for a car purchase, you will get probably for 15 lakhs in India, I'm talking about. For 15 lakhs, you might get a 3-row seated car, 2-row seat. Means it could have either 6 or even 5 for the same cost, right? So similar to that, for the same in the same place, can we go on to have, or do we have in India or anywhere in the market, in the same place, same neighborhood, can I get a 2000 square feet of 2 BHK and 2000 square feet of 3 BHK?
I understand.
We don't see it, right?
Yes.
But
No, very good.
okay, so probably there is no market to it. I'm not denying, right? But why product planning, right? If a company goes through a simple understanding as to, do we have a market there? If we position something like this, then probably people like Badri, who would more like my 2 bedrooms, which are like lavishly open, lavishly spacious. He may not want the rooms separations, but he need the lavishness of it, right? Just out of, I mean, just for a sample.
The only market, in my opinion and my limited knowledge, the only market in India where they think so much, where the builders think so much as Arun is laying out, is probably Mumbai. I mean, others probably try to copy, but then I've seen a lot of nuance in Mumbai, right? Within the same area, hey, I want to give you a small pool, I want to give you like this parapet. They do try to differentiate because probably the apartment culture and apartment market is the oldest there. It is, I mean, I would say in market size, it is probably the size of many countries, the whole apartment universe in Mumbai. So probably they are a little experienced than other markets.
I'll give you
Definitely
another way. But no, I want to even put it is, let's not go the high end, right? Let's go to the lower end. Say, how many of the projects have a studio apartment which is lavish? Say, can we have 1,000 square feet studio apartment or a 800 square feet studio apartment? Typically, what they do is they try to innovate an EWS segment, which is like probably that 500 square feet, right? Or which is mandated by the government, to try to see whether it could be done well, right? That, see, it's more a necessity, right? I'm not trying.
this I've seen in the US, but I've seen less in India. I agree. I agree. You have very posh. You do have very posh studio apartments and stuff.
Posh, when you go up the value chain, up the complete scenario, right? It normally, what happens, people tend to, I mean, it's very easy to say that, okay, hey, instead of Jaguar, I put that, and instead of probably, you'll have centralized AC, you will have VRV systems, you have internal lifts and all those things. I mean, you could keep adding specifications because you're basically have to basically billing it, right, high. But my point is not that, right. My point is towards where do you start. It's not about, okay, just because you have to build so much, you're putting a list. No, that's
True,
not what
true,
I'm
true.
saying.
I understand. I understand.
So, unfortunately, this is where the market is coming. That's where the question of what Balaji asked starts, right?
Mm.
How is the architect and the civil engineer being briefed, right? Normally, so it all starts with the brief, and those guys have to attend to the brief, right? So if you are putting a boundary, or if you are giving a brief as simple as this, saying that, hey, I need to bill it at this rate, and I somehow needs a 4 BHK at a 4 bedrooms in a 2 BHK with a kitchen and a utility, which means invariably you're giving every mandate there,
No.
right? So which means the architect can't give you anything beyond the obvious, and because you already set the price band, the architect can't give you anything beyond the normal usual spec,
Yeah.
right? And it's anybody's game, right? So even a non-architect could if you go to Google and could pick up any brochures and probably rename it and call it your project tomorrow by getting an approval, right? It's
Nobody.
as in terms of launching project, because like that today buyers are tend to decide and don't see any difference, and their parameters to choose
Very, very
everything.
commoditized. Very commoditized. Basically, there is no difference between project A and B and C and D.
Absolutely, it is more moved like a gold instead of a car, right? I would say like that. See, gold, like you buy jewelry from any brand, in which it is of same quality, just the
As
design or
long as
probably.
it is, yeah, as long as it is BAS or Hallmark certified, then it is a bar. Or it's a coin. There is nothing to it.
Nothing to it. It's just that, okay, hey, this shop has the designs which I like, and that shop does not have it. Which means today's real estate also is bought more like a gold, where, hey, this project has my vastu compliant home, and must my vastu, my aesthetic look, what I perceive it to be good from my balcony. This project hasn't. That's why I buy it. Right? So which means there is no difference. There is no excitement for the marketing. I mean, the architects, designing, structural, and things like that. I would say there are very few brands, if they are product leaders like cars. I wouldn't say even car product leaders. I'm saying even cars, if you see a Hyundai and Maruti compete each other, but they don't really compete in terms of their core value system, right? See, Hyundai does not compete mileage, never, right? But still they compete in the same price bracket and try to eat out the market share of Maruti, right? Similarly, is Maruti, in spite of bringing the best hybrid systems, still want to focus purely on getting a better mileage than giving a better dashboard and features,
Yes.
right? That's the core. So because of this, what happens, though in the market there are always mileage conscious customers, there
Yes.
is always feature conscious customers. So so this is directly, I mean, it's not proportional to each other. Features are not proportional to mileage. This is what they have combined, they brought in. Am I right? Which means there is a scope for a new brand in car segment, in that segment itself, where it can have a mileage plus the feature,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I'm just giving you so there is a position. So probably now, if I'm a new brand in car, probably I would focus it there, to start focusing there, right? Similar to this, is there a philosophy or drawing board discussions for builders today? Is marketing CMOs and ad agencies and market research work like this? After getting these things, is this given as a brief to a product designing team? Based on this, is project designing team taking time of 3-6 months to come up with a beautiful plan which is unique? Because of this aspiration, am I structuring certain elevations? Am I choosing certain color palettes on my elevations? No, right? And based on this is marketing brief given, brochures are designed, dynamic shifts. Again, all of these things are pertinent. Maybe few top builders might be doing. I'm not denying, right? But those are single digit builders, right? We could in entire India, span of India, we might start seeing only maximum of 10 people at best, and even they have got diluted in few projects and things like that, right? Is there so that is the aspect of it, right? So that's where we don't appreciate uh, an architect equal to a car designer, right? Today, a guy who basically sketch a car or do a physical model with a wood, right? What they normally do in their R&D, they are like valued like so heavily, right?
True.
Vis-a-vis an architect in this industry. So my point is, this is where the
Even
architect.
Johnny Ive of Apple is very famous. He is the person behind most of the famous Apple designs from iPhone and stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just imagine today's today's smartphones, right? Apple, right? Say, any smartphones, when they launch, right? The premium smartphones, they speak about the build quality, what it happens, what combination of metals they use, and how is, the water resistant, dust resistant, and how foolproof, how lifestyle oriented, how it projects the users as the guy who comes for, right? The same thing happens with the car, right? The car comes up and says that how built I am, how secured I am, my chassis is this, my rating is this. Whereas,
There is clearly a design philosophy to phones. Like if you are buying a particular family of phones, you are signing up to certain design decisions. That is you. Like it becomes your personality.
can that be identified in homes? Even for somebody who's spending 25-30 lakhs,
Yeah.
right? Even a guy who spends 5-6 lakhs in the car has that lifestyle aspiration, right? By buying that, I do it, right? Even in smartphones of 20,000 rupees, 30,000 rupees, that philosophy comes up, right? But unfortunately, in real estate, which is the costliest consumer good and costliest money spent for design, for structure, there is a civil, there is regulation, similar to any of other things, right? A car, maximum people use it for 7-10 years at best, right? But a home is something which probably they buy and probably own it for more than, at least a 20-year period,
Yeah.
right? So for all of these things, if you see, that is where is missing, right? At least to my point, this philosophy has worked for me, wherein I have always been successful in my marketing is purely because I focus on these connects for the profiling, so that my communication is very simple, make eyeballs turn, and pretty easily I'll be able to get a profile, market to react to my products. So that's the secret sauce for us, at least so far.
You kind of identify what who this caters to, what kind of user this caters to, so that way that calling for that product becomes much more, instead of you kind of decommoditize the project as much as possible, identify your buyer, identify your spending pattern and your funnel, as we spoke in the last episode, so that you have a handle on this right from the beginning.
Is it good to position 2.5 BHK as 2 bedroom plus study or a 3 bedroom?
Hence,
The point which we take, right? A 3 bedroom is for a value centric guy. Vis-a-vis a 2 bedroom with study is more a relatively a guy who probably needs an extra room for study, right? And similar ways, you could also position the same 2.5 as a 2 bedroom with kids room, right? So how are you actually and if that is maximum in a project, then I take that as a profiling, as that as a family, and project it in my communications, bring it out there, right? As an example, I'm saying, right? So typically this is what we play, and there are places where 2 BHKs are wide. There is, when we go visit the model house or the plans, we tend to see, hey, what is it that well thought through? Is it cross ventilated well, right? And if we are trying to say, is 80% of homes in that category in our project has that? If that is it, then can we project that as a USP for this point, right? And if it is cross ventilated, and if I could see landscape from every window, right, for almost 80% of the units, we take that and project it to those people, so that people who appreciate landscape, people who appreciate cross ventilation, are the ones who I want, right? So they would value my point of positioning.
so to last episode, what you have added is, last episode was all about there is a algorithm for success. It is based on math. It is based on 1% conversion formula, right from how you spend time and money for impressions to kind of getting leads to site visits to sales. To that, you have added one very, very vital point today, which I'm kind of highlighting again for users before Balaji goes to his subsequent questions. But I think the point you've added today is kind of be very clear on positioning, be very clear on the user right from the beginning, or how are we going to position to what specific subsegment of user, and then do all of the same things which we said in the last episode regarding the math. Before the math, kind of get the qualitative user profiling. Yeah, Balaji, sorry.
Yeah, Badri, you started off something which is pretty important. You actually, we're coining the workflow from how the pulse of a potential buyer is and how this is adopted by the architects and so on. So it is very important to understand the workflow to begin with. Arun, how you make it market ready, how you sell it is something we have discussed. And we are starting from the foundational level of how things are going to start. Could you do a quick workflow of how things move forward to, conceptualizing until sale? Can you just, verbally put out a workflow and, go specialized in terms of how architects think, because they actually constitute the R&D in real estate, in getting things done.
Basically, almost every architect would want to give you something new.
I'd like you to start from, if you don't mind. Given the title of the podcast today is being streamlining the processes and systems, so it would be great if you can summarize a quick run through of where architects stand and zero in onto them and probably get into the details.
See, architect is not somebody who's going to just give a layout and then move out, right? No. He is just going to give you a layout and then probably define the bill of materials in it, right? Which brand, which quality, what is the color, what is the palette of tile XYZ. He defines it upfront on day one, right? So today's architect, at least in the middle segment of builders, what they focus is more towards giving the estimate for the project.
Okay.
Right? that estimation and budgeting is what comes from the architect, and somewhere that goes on to I mean, the architect invariably have his own tie up for a structural engineer whom he's good with, and then along with the structural engineer he reduces the beams, the number of beams which could be aligned so that the house has not have a, I mean, a beam inside a room or things like that, right? So once you optimize the structure for a bare minimum combination and arrive at a bill of material, that's where the architect kickstarts. From here, the civil engineer starts executing the entire project itself, right? And as he's executing at various point in time, the architect would come in and have to approve, right? Yes, the structural engineer has to come and say that yes, as per the whatever we planned, this is going right. As per the architect, the design is going right. And during the project, there will be certain minor course corrections, minor improvisations, which probably the civil guy at that point in time would require. Those also will be resolved by these architects and structural engineers. So this is how a project is happen physically, and that's where they flow. So architect today at least have play a very major role in bringing the cost optimization and making sure that it becomes very predictable for a developer, because the developer is no I would say qualified by certification uh, to validate a design or a validate a structure and things like that, right? So that's why even while going to a government approval, there is a architect signature which is required, structural signature is required, and I mean these are all empaneled in the government approvals, right? These guys. So that's how it goes for an approval. So unless that approval comes up, okay, that's where the execution kicks in, right? So uh, the architect who gets in stays there till the end of the project. And as per RERA, almost all of these architects, structural engineers are all, even though they are not in terms of the revenue share a part of the game, but at least as a project they are stakeholders in equal partnerships as of RERA legal terms, right? So they have very high stake in terms of how it is executed and things like that. So that's why we're all safe today, right? We're all comfortably going in and buying and could stay in most of the projects.
Few very big takeaways today for me, at least so far. So that's why I'm kind of repeating them. Right, one about finding the audience and tailoring the whole marketing processes or streamlining according to that, the number game, and also about architects, how key they are, and where they come in, and how along the life cycle they are important. Yeah.
And actually, today's new age architects have predominantly gone towards. There are few architects who have gone on to self brand themselves and start going into the designing and execution at a unit at a individual villa level for high end and things like that, which is pretty common across India. There are very few well known architects who does that. And today landscape architecture is a separate scope, right? So because a lot of high rises which are coming, because of this there are open space reservations which are mandated. Those open space reservations are have to go green, right, in today's world to look beautiful, good. So there is a landscape things which is happening. At least I would say 7-8 years back, it was very common to have a Singapore uh, landscape architect for any of the races. But today I see a lot of Bangalore based, a lot of Mumbai based landscape architects handle these things. So those are the scope for the architects.
Also, sustainable and eco-friendly has become a very big buzzword, at least in marketing. Some do it very sincerely, like total quality TQ or total environment of Bangalore. I forget the name. They're very good. Like at least they used to be very good. I know some folks who got it. So for some cases, the landscape architect use that as a big branding. Sometimes the overall architects use it as a big branding. Like some brands have very good popularity for like the sustainability measures, the materials they use, right? The thought given behind like water treatment and like greening and energy conservation, all of that has become Both a fad and in some cases really well done also. A lot of attention there, because that is again, as you said, in this to cut the clutter, right, and to cut the commoditization. Those things become very big USPs as to, hey, I'm very very big on this, so you should look at my project. So for that it becomes more than thinking at a home level. Yeah.
Hey, I missed something very obvious, right? See, a major architect's role is to plan the infrastructure of big projects, right? Where how the drainage, water, where it comes, and how it also. So laying out, understanding the topography, understanding the soil aspect of it. Then based on that, structure guy gives them that, hey, this is how it has to have. Based on that, this is the foundation which we need to give. So there is a lot of collaboration which happens at that level of design. I mean, having said that, design and aspect has been very templatized in terms of PHKs. And having said that, today the land, soil or the land is not same even in every neighborhood, right? Two land parcels do not have the same land mass. There could be something like, there could be a pond nearby, there could be a river nearby, there could be marshland nearby. So a lot of dynamics is there. Based on that, the structural engineer's role is like super huge. Based on the structural designer, architect, they plan their entire scheme of things. The layout, the flood, the stormwater drains. In today, we've seen enough
Oh
flooding,
yeah.
at least most of the
Oh yeah.
cities, right?
Yes.
Stormwater drains under all these things plays a very very important role. Car parks, that's a huge challenge, right? How many car, because it's, if you see today, almost every apartment, they maximum give you one at best two car parks, and two is like very very it's not common, I would say. Uh, Two car parks is when you get a 3 BHK and above sorts, right? That's the normality. But unfortunately, even for a 2 BHK today, how many users are actually owning more than one car is like very common. So that's why we flood roads. So already the roads are full, right? Beyond your own car parks in India, roads are full, and even in your road, you won't be able to park and walk to your house, right? So that it's become that today. So number of car parks is going to be tremendously well planned. Multi-level car parks has already started creeping in Mumbai heavily, right? In the existing how open places, the artificial multi-level car parkings have started coming in. uh, this huge infra set of issues, an infra set of problems due to the congestion, due to more people building in the same place, trying to capitalize on the FSI. Yeah, so it's not one person to blame, but the entire migration and entire dynamics and entire uh, city dynamics.
It is not unique to India as well, right? Even in developed countries like Switzerland has this problem, New York has this problem. Like even in developed countries, they may not have as much of population as India, but then few school districts or few key cities have all the population. So there is congestion. So it is very common in apartments, rental apartments or even own apartments in New York and Switzerland to have 10, 20, 35-year wait times in queues for parking. So you apply, there's an apply process. And then I know in Switzerland, I've seen people when I was a student to get like 35-year wait list to get an apartment slot. You don't even know whether you'll be alive at that time. New York has that in some parts, like where you have 10, 20-year, 5-year wait list. Like you finished applying, yes, this is your wait list. This is your time ETA to get a parking slot. So that kind of situation, when it can happen in developed countries, because there is consolidation of population in fewer pockets, not very different in India, right? The big cities, tier 1, tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities is seeing more urbanization. So
Yeah, in India, and another problem is the waste management systems, RO management systems, sewerage STP management systems. Unfortunately, government has made it mandate for the developers to plan all these things. In spite of government, I mean, I have nothing against the government or any governments, but I'm just saying the rule is like this. It's very strange. The the consumer and the developer pay a property tax and pay an infra fee while applying for the approvals, but the liability is on the developer to go on to implement all these things within the project, right? And it is not the guarantee of the the government to basically give the roads and infra on day one of the project, as long as whenever it is applicable across the geography, and that in that geography is when they will do. I mean, these are typical things which we need to see, and things and a lot of dynamics is there. The dumping, the e-waste, the green versus dry waste, sort of splitting up. So today, if you the architect's office more focuses on these than these, because and these are like super huge efforts to plan. That's why probably the best wish list what we spoke about in the early part of this episode is not been focused upon, unfortunately, right? I mean, we can't blame any, but
Also, we are a very youngly capitalistic country. We have been very heavily socialist, and so the challenge which comes is now everybody is getting used to the fact that nothing comes free. Everything has to be planned, everything has to be budgeted, and then ultimately it will be passed on to the customer. Customers, there were times when you didn't even know what happened to your trash. It just ended up in a landfill. Hush, hush, nobody paid for it. Now, obviously, nobody can plan a project like that. Ultimately, there has to be segregation. There has to be a proper waste to this thing, which means there's a planning to it, there's an approval to it, and then ultimately the cost is passed on to you, right? So, which is kind of you. These are things you are used to as a way of life in West. In India, we are still opening up to the eyes, like everything is a line item which you have to start paying if life has to be like very harmonious and very kind of streamlined. Good, Arun. Like I think we've unpacked a lot of points for today. So especially I think around the whole user centric or consumer centric planning right from the beginning, and then kind of proceeding with the sales and marketing, and then the execution planning of the project. That is probably, if there is one single important takeaway, that is one. Number two, we understood a lot about the complicated work that architects do, how early they have to get involved, how deep they're involved, how long they're involved, what are the so many different things that they get to do, including sustainability, waste management, and all of that. So yeah, uh, for the next episode, I mean, I'll just throw something. I mean, we are probably already at end of time here. We can go probably more into the banker's role next episode if both of you are interested. Right from like how do they finance, uh, right from how does the builder approach them, what are the various stages that the banker. I want to kind of cover the arc. It may take a few episodes, right from project financing to kind of different levels of stilt that they finance, ultimately up to passing on to B2C financing, right from the B2B to like then to the consumer side, right? So how does banks get involved, what are the banking options?
That would close the loop on this topic.
Exactly. What are the banking options? Is there science to it, or is it just too random and free for all? That what are the bank options presented to the buyers when they buy? What is the logic behind that? Right from the whole B2B to B2C arc. So let's talk about that. So I think for today we've given a lot for the users to chew. Very interesting, very useful topics. Yeah.
So on that note, we will wrap up for today, and we'll have the next one tomorrow. See you all. Bye.
Bye.